What a wonderful day for an exorcism. Let's get spooky. Greetings everyone, my name is Nightshade. This is The Night Shift, a home for all things spooky, and today we're looking at The Exorcist, released in 1973. Now, the main reason that we are taking a look at The Exorcist today is because it is my birthday, and the very first time that I ever watched this movie was on my birthday. I think it was like my 12th or 13th birthday that I finally watched this movie, and because of that fact, I always associate this movie with my birthday, and I felt it necessary to do a review on it today. Now, The Exorcist is one of those movies that scared me before I even watched it. And the reason it scared me is because this is the only movie that has ever terrified my dad. And my dad's not scared of a lot of shit, but I think it was my tia Rosa that traumatized him by making him watch this movie whenever he was but a wee little lad. And this movie has haunted him ever since. So when my parents started letting me watch horror movies at a pretty early age, this was one of the movies that was off the list. This was one of the movies that I was never going to be allowed to watch, and that fact alone just made this movie seem like it was going to be way more terrifying than it actually was. And don't get me wrong, this is a scary movie. This is one that terrified me, especially because at the time, whenever I first watched this, I still, believed in heaven and hell and demons and all that shit. But, so like, it did scare the living shit out of me the first time that I watched it. But nowadays I can watch this movie just fine, and it doesn't scare me at all. But back then, the first time that I watched this, scared the living shit out of me. And there is something to be said there that this was like the reigning defending champion of the scariest movie of all time. Like, it's very much the top dog whenever it comes to scary movies. Like a new horror movie that comes out, if they want to promote it, they'll be like, it's the scariest movie since The Exorcist. Almost as scary as The Exorcist. This movie is scarier than The Exorcist. No, shit like that. It's a culturally significant movie because of how scary the legacy of this film actually is. And I've told this story on the channel before, but we had like significantly less subscribers, so I'm gonna go ahead and reiterate it this time. The first time I watched this movie, it was on my 12th or 13th birthday, and I wanted to have a sleepover with my friends and just watch scary movies. The version that you've never seen before had just recently come out to DVD, and so that was one that I rented and made all of my friends who aren't really horror fans, but they wanted to come hang out for my birthday anyways. And the version that you've never seen before has a lot of bonus footage, like the crab walk down the stairs scene. And when the movie was done, we wanted to go upstairs to my room, and seeing the stairs, me and my friends were all just like, oh no. And then without missing a beat, because my mom is a little prankster, my mom at the time could do the back bend walk, and she started charging at me and my friends. And we all ran out of the front door and just started screaming our heads off, running out into the cold winter evening. Oh fuck, dude, that was one of the best memories of my life. Bunch of 13-year-old kids running outside screaming like little girls. Fun times. Love you, Mom, if you're watching. So not only did the movie scare the shit out of me, my mom also fucking traumatized me and my friends. With that story out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the review. If you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know how I do my reviews. I don't go beat for beat with the story, giving my criticisms along the way. Instead, what I do is recommend that you go and check the movie out for yourself. That way you can get your own opinion about the movie. Instead, what I do is I break this down into two categories, the positives and the negatives. And then when I'm done doing that, I score this out of a possible 10 points, and then we end the video. But here on The Night Shift, we always start off on the bright side with
Excellent day for an exorcism.
young Regan McNeil gets possessed by the demon Pazuzu, who makes her do horrible and awful things. Then undergo an exorcism by Father Karras and Father Marin. That's like the basic bare bones description of the story. Like go watch the movie for yourself and see how it all plays out. It's a pretty phenomenal movie. But yeah, I love the underlying subtext, which is, you know, it's a movie about the crisis of faith, and they actually execute that very well in this. Well, in one instance, it doesn't work for me, and that would be Father Karras when his mom dies and he starts questioning his faith in God, which, I mean, his mom was old. That's what old people do, is they die. And I mean, you know, losing a parent at any age is hard, I'm sure, but you know, I don't know that if my parents passed whenever they were like 80, 90 years old, that I would be like, God, why? You know, that kind of bugs me a little bit. But the crisis of faith with Reagan's mom, you know, she's not really a religious type of person, but like they state in the movie that, you know, she never really went to church, didn't really buy into religion at all. And, you know, then seeing her daughter become possessed by a demon, you know, that is a little bit more interesting of a perspective on the crisis of faith. And I think it's done really well. Like, you know, if you don't believe in God and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, hey, this shit's real, like, that would be genuinely terrifying. You know, especially, you know, seeing your own kid turn her head all the way around and just doing the most awful shit. And, you know, Reagan's pretty innocent at the beginning of this film, and she just gets steadily declines into worse and worse territory. And, you know, I'm sure as a parent that is fucking nightmare fuel. But yeah, the story in this, absolutely great. It's absolutely phenomenal. I fucking love it. And this is one of those movies where, like, you know, everything else feeds the story. Like, the story was the top priority of this film, and like everything else only serves the purpose of the story, and I really, really enjoy the story of this film. So, moving right along on our list of positives, we have... Holy shit! The makeup and practical effects in this film is absolutely phenomenal. The way that they transformed Linda Blair into looking like a little kid, an innocent little kid, and made her look like a demon straight from hell was absolutely phenomenal. The dead looking skin tone that she has, all the open wounds, the contact lenses look fucking amazing. And I'm fairly sure, like, during the 70s, the colored contact lenses were made of glass, which sounds fucking uncomfortable as hell, but they look cool. And not to mention all the practical effects as well. Like, they did a pretty spot on job at making a replica of Linda Blair's head for the rotating head scene. The makeup in this is really good. The practical effects looked really good. And I know a lot of people got hurt during the stunt works in this film, and I don't really appreciate that aspect of it, but it does look really good on screen. So, I mean, I don't think that's worth hurting your coworkers, but you know, Linda Blair has back issues from the bed scene. Whenever she's flinging back and forth, they had like a pole that was lifting her up and slamming her down. And Ellen Burstyn as well fractured her tailbone whenever they like just yanked her really hard out of frame, and she got really fucked up off of that, and has had issues ever since. Like, you could definitely get the same effect without putting people in harm's way. And, you know, thank God for movie standards nowadays. People don't get hurt nearly as much, or at least we don't hear about people being hurt as much. And you know, just directors aren't dicks nowadays for the most part. But yeah, all of the stunt work and the makeup and the practical effects kind of just compiled them into one solid category because, you know, they all kind of feed into each other. So, moving right along, we have... So the main piece of music in this film is called Tubular Bells, and it is absolutely iconic as hell. It is a fantastic piece of music. It's both beautiful and haunting at the same time. And I would say it's as iconic as, Michael Myers' theme song, as Freddy Krueger's theme song. It's up there with the great scores of horror. And, it's one of the best pieces of music in all of horror cinema, for sure. Like, come on, get out of here. And I do believe my dad had that song on his phone as a ringtone for my former stepmom, which is hilarious. She was a fucking bitch though, so fuck her. So moving right along to our final positive, which is so the version that you've never seen is my preferred viewing experience with this movie. It was the first version that I had ever seen of this film, and I really, really liked the additional footage. And I respect the subtlety of the original without all of the scenes, without Pazuzu showing up in the kitchen. I do like, the less is more approach from the original 1973 film, but I just like the extra shit. Like, I genuinely love the scene with the backwards crab walk down the steps. I think that is absolutely terrifying as hell. If I saw that in real life, I would shit at least 4 different types of bricks. I mean, who wouldn't? Like, I respect the less is more approach, but in this instance, I actually prefer the more is more approach with the additional footage. And I think there's a little bit extra lines of dialogue in there. But the version that you've never seen is my preferred viewing experience for this film. And that is just about going to do it for all of my positives. Now we move along to
the power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Now, I myself personally don't really have negatives for this film. However, I will concede a few points that people may find to be a little bit negative. For starters, this movie is a bit dated. This movie came out in 1973, and it definitely looks like it came out in 1973. Even the 4K transfers don't really, modernize it in any way, shape, or form. It still looks like it was filmed in the 70s. I personally love that style of filming. I do love that look in cinema. However, some of the younger audience of this channel who've been used to watching like 1080p and 4K horror movies, like, it might not look as good as, modern films, but it is what it is. Another thing that could be perceived as a negative is the acting. I know a lot of people think that the first half of this film is kind of corny, kind of cheesy. I don't find any issues with it. There's better acting in this than there is in, a majority of the slasher flicks in the 80s. So, I mean, I have no issues with the acting, but I can see where, a newer audience might not like it as much, I guess. So, I mean, that's a point to take into consideration. And the last point that I will concede for especially modern audiences is that it's really not that scary. Like, whenever it first came out, it was nightmare fuel because nothing like that had ever come out to that point. Like, it was genuinely terrifying for audiences of that time. It was a huge cultural impact on society at that point in time. However, horror is always upping the stakes, and since the release of The Exorcist, modern audiences are desensitized to demon possessions and stuff like that. So it might not be terrifying to everybody. I know some people think that it's downright silly. If you're one of the people that don't find this movie scary and find it a little bit silly, that's fair. The first time I watched this movie, I was still of the belief that all of this shit really happened because it was based on real events. And I still believed in angels and demons and stuff like that. And so it was genuinely terrifying for me because, you know, like being possessed by the devil sounded absolutely horrifying. However, that's not the case for me now. And, you know, it's not as scary as it was on my first watch or even my second watch. But nowadays, it's just a fun movie for me to watch that I think was done really well, especially for 1973. I think it is a pretty good movie. Is it the scariest movie of all time? No, but it was whenever it first came out and was the reigning defending champion of horror for a good, you know, a good few years. But, you know, at the time that it was released, it was genuinely terrifying. Audiences tried to boycott this movie. And for that, you know, it gets my respect. That is just about going to do it for me. This is going to be the only video that I post this week, but we will be back on the 2 videos a week next week. You know, I've been celebrating my birthday all weekend and eating a lot of food, and that also ate up a lot of time. And, you know, it is currently 6 o'clock in the morning, so I don't have time to film anything else. I'm going to go home and I'm going to go to bed. But we're going to be doing a lot of Christmas-themed horror movies throughout the rest of December, starting next week. If there's any like Christmas-themed horror movies that you would like to see me cover on the channel, let me know in the comments below. I will be reading all of those because I do have a list of Christmas horror movies that I've not seen. But if there's one that you guys want me to review first, I will definitely do that. So that is just about going to do it for me. If you liked the video, let me know by leaving me a like. Comment down below what you want to see on the channel next. I will do my best to accommodate. And until next time, my name is Nightshade. This has been The Night Shift, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky, my friends.